Hey, Marjorie's here, and you're watching the review Sanctum, where everything and anything may be reviewed. And today we're talking about Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse. And what can I say? If you're any kind of Spider-Man fan, this is the movie for you. This movie got all the callbacks, the cameos, the references, anything you could ever think about Spider-Man related to his history of comic books, cartoons, the older movies, stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. It's worth watching if you're any kind of Spider-Man fan, enough said. And after the plot here, what can I say? The storyline's about Miles Morales, of course. Miles Morales in the comic books was from the Ultimate Marvel Universe, and the Ultimate Marvel Universe was supposed to be a more updated version of the Marvel Universe. It's like, I guess, an alternate version of it, where the idea was that you as a reader, as a fan, would buy these comics and be able to just kind of jump into the comics without having to know like about 40, 50, 60 years worth of backstory. Because Spider-Man's been around since like the 60s or so, 60s or 70s or something. And the way comic books work is that's the same Spider-Man from the 60s that we got today, you know, and storyline or whatever. So that was the idea of the Ultimate Marvel Universe, to get more updated versions of the comic books. And of course the characters and origins now take place in more, you know, modern day backstories or whatever. But yeah, the Ultimate Marvel Universe did have a Peter Parker. He eventually died in battle, and Miles Morales became the new Spider-Man. And even though the Ultimate Marvel Universe was an alternate reality, due to all these, you know, big crossovers and big comic events or whatever, now Miles Morales exists in the regular universe alongside Peter Parker. And I'm not sure if he has another name that's not Spider-Man, but as far as I'm concerned, he's still Spider-Man. But I guess we got two of them now, but that's how it happens. So anyways, this movie here represents like the big time, like the first time in, you know, to a broad audience, his first cinematic appearance of Miles Morales. So for the few people that don't read comic books, that never heard of this character, that's your big introduction to him, and he did a very good job. So yeah, Miles Morales is a regular kid there. We get to see a little bit of his backstory, I guess his normal life before weird stuff happens. And the movie also begins with regular Peter Parker, and it's kind of funny because it's kind of implied that either, I don't know, I can't really say Tobey Maguire because obviously he's drawn different, but like his life is very similar to the first Tobey Maguire trilogy. They reenact like all these scenes from the trilogy. They even reference the emo Peter Parker dancing from Spider-Man 3, and when I saw that I was like laughing. I was like, oh my god, that's so fucking cheesy and whatever. And I rarely laugh out loud in movies, especially movies that aren't like all-out comedies. I guess you could call it a comedy, but you know, so I was like, oh my god, you know. So yeah, so this version of Peter Parker, his life is similar to the first Tobey Maguire trilogy, and you know, Miles Morales in the meantime is hanging out like in this underground subway place, whatever, and he's with his uncle, and that's where Miles gets bitten by a radioactive spider, and he starts, you know, getting the symptoms of his new powers and stuff. So he goes back, and this is weird because, like, in this universe, like, Spider-Man comics exist. Like, Miles was reading actual Spider-Man comics, like Amazing Fantasy number 13, I think it was, when he first appeared, and reading about how Peter Parker got bitten by a radioactive spider. So he's like freaking out. So he went back to the underground location to see, like, if the spider was really radioactive or he's just like paranoid or whatever. And also, each character is just so cool. Each character has their little like introduction based on the comic books of who they are, how they became Spider-Man / girl, and how they're at their current spot where they are now. So that's pretty cool. And that's just all the references of Peter Parker's life that was similar to the Tobey Maguire thing. So anyways, when Miles goes back to check if the spider was radioactive or not, he actually sees the real Spider-Man in action, and Spider-Man's fighting against the Green Goblin, and they're fighting in this big something collider machine, and the Kingpin's involved as well, and the machine blows up or something blows up, and Spider-Man is injured, and Kingpin actually kills Spider-Man, and Miles Morales gets to see it, and he gets spotted. So Kingpin wants like the bad guys to capture and kill Miles Morales and everything, and of course the world now realizes that Spider-Man is dead, that Peter Parker's dead, and Miles Morales was given this kind of like this kind of flash drive looking device to activate the machine, because this machine is like this weird multi-universe type machine that the Kingpin wants to run for some reason. I won't spoil the reason. And if he runs the machine again, it could wipe out all of New York and everything, kill everyone and everything. So Miles has to stop it, even though he still doesn't really understand how his spider powers work. And of course, with the multi-universe stuff, we get another version of Peter Parker, this older version of Peter Parker. It's kind of based on the one that we started off with, but it's like years later. He married MJ, he got divorced by MJ, his life sucks. He tried to, I guess, market his image with a restaurant or whatever, and it all failed. He's poor, he's unpopular, he's heartbroken with the loss of Mary Jane, he gained weight. He's like I guess a hopeless loser version of Spider-Man and everything. So now he's in our world, and Spider-Gwen also comes to our world, and he's trying to help Peter, he's trying to help Miles Morales with his, learning how to use his powers, learning how to do web slinging and all that stuff, and, helping him figure out the device and how to stop the Kingpin's device and everything. And of course we get other Spider people. We get Spider-Ham. He was a cartoon parody called Peter Porker. And we get Spider-Man Noir. And we also get Penny Parker, who has like this mech and everything. That's kind of cool. And she's kind of weird because I think the spider is still alive. The spider has the soul of her grandpa, or the mech has the soul of her grandpa. I don't know, but the spider was alive. Like, I don't know. So anyways, what can I say? The whole thing about the movies is that Miles Morales has to figure out how to disarm the device, because he made a promise. If Kingpin activates the device, it's going to wipe out everything. Of course, the spider people, I guess their bodies cannot adjust to being in this world, like their atoms or molecules, whatever, do not adapt to this new universe, so they're glitching out, and if they don't go back home soon, they'll just die, they'll just vanish. And at the same time, Miles has to grow into his own, he had this stuff just thrown into him, so he has to learn how to use his powers. There's time where there's a lot of self-doubt, and the other spider people self-doubt him too. Well, doubt him too, and he has to overcome that. He has to, get his inner bravery, get his confidence. He has to become the new official Spider-Man to take over now in his universe, and all of that's super awesome. And you also get all these cool villains besides the Kingpin. There's also a female version of Dr. Octopus. We got Tombstone. We also got Scorpion. And these are characters that don't appear too often in, in the movies and big media. They did a good job of that. They did a good job of showing villains that don't appear in the movies too much. And even though we get a female Doc Ock, she's still familiar enough to the regular Doc Ock. It's still kind of like a familiar callback, And I know the Kingpin in the comics is he's as big of a Spider-Man bad guy as he is a Daredevil bad guy, but so much media has only shown the Daredevil side of things. This movie kind of helps remind people that, yeah, he's a Spider-Man villain too, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And what can I say? The movie was cool. I love the references. I like the different art styles. Spider-Ham is drawn in a more, obviously more cartoony style, and he has, cartoony mallets and angles and stuff like that. And Penny Parker is drawn anime style. She's kind of weird because she's drawn anime style, but still in that weird, I don't know what style you want to call this cartoon, cel-shaded, rendered, whatever, but she still looks anime-ish, and she has all the anime facial expressions, and the android thing, the mech, also has android expressions, and Spider-Man Noir is black and white, and he can only see things in black and white, and that's kind of fun. He did a joke with the Rubik's Cube and stuff like that. Of course, Spider-Gwen is awesome, and it's just funny seeing this older, down on his luck Peter Parker helping people out and stuff like that. A lot of stuff goes on in the movie. I love the villains. I love the animation style. I love how cool the movie was. I love how the movie focused, it did a good job on focusing on Miles Morales, that despite that you see all these other Spider-Man and all this stuff going on, it still remembers that this is a Miles Morales movie, and it does a good job with his history, his backstory, the stuff that happens in his life, the I guess, reveals he has to encounter and stuff like that, so it's pretty cool. And everything I want to say. The movie, of course, there are some little nitpicks here and there. The main nitpick I'm trying to say without that many spoilers is when the villains first appear, like all of them, you know, Tombstone and the female Doc Ock and Scorpion appear at Aunt May's house, and there's a big fight between them and the Spider-Man bad guys. There's a big fight between the Spider-Man villains and all the Spider people at Aunt May's house and everything, and while all this stuff was happening, Prowler was there too. Prowler was mostly after Miles Morales, and the scene kind of cuts away to Miles escaping and Prowler chasing him, and there's stuff that goes on between Miles and Prowler that if you're a Miles Morales fan, you already know, but I want to spoil it for the people that haven't seen the movie just yet. But the thing is that after that whole thing happened, the other heroes show up and want to see what's going on. But I'm like, well, what happened to the fight? Like, did the bad guys lose? Did the bad guys go away? I mean, the bad guys were determined to get that device back no matter what. So, like, they didn't explain what happened to the fight. It just cut away. I don't know. That part was kind of weird. That part was kind of like, they should have showed an extra scene of the bad guys saying, well, you know, retreat or something. I don't know what happened there. The fight was just, like, on hold as the story went on with Miles and Prowler, and you know that was kind of weird. The other nitpick, I guess minor thing, was in Gwen Stacy's story, her version of the story, when she became Spider-Gwen, she was the one bitten by a radioactive spider instead of Peter Parker. Peter Parker became the Lizard, and tragically Peter Parker died and she couldn't save him. So I think like she should have reacted a little bit to seeing like this weird, this older version of Peter Parker, just kind of like saying, wow, you're like an older, out of shape, loser version of my friend or something. It's just kind of weird, you know? And in this case, Gwen Stacy has to pass because none of these characters know Gwen Stacy, so there's no one that can say, wow, our version of Gwen Stacy died, you know? So that's kind of weird. But yeah, those are the two minor nitpicks. No reaction there. And also the weird fight, like the fight was going on with all these characters. We focus on Miles and Prowler, and all of a sudden the good guys are there with no explanation to the fight. Like what happened to the fight? The day that completely destroyed Aunt May's house? You know, what happened, you know? That's the only thing that kind of got me. But other than that, the movie's a lot of fun, a lot of references. I like the fact that Aunt May already knew about like Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and I guess this version of Spider-Man has like a Batcave type spider hideout bunker place or something. And yeah, you see all these things, you see all these different Spider-Man costumes from throughout the years. You see Spider-Man memorabilia everywhere. You see the spider buggy, if you remember the spider buggy from back then, all that stuff. So yeah, it's just references everywhere. Of course, it's also a Stan Lee cameo, which was obviously filmed before, you know, what can I say? I still miss Stan Lee. When I heard about what happened to him, I was just in shock. And honestly, I didn't make any kind of video regarding that because I had no words. I don't know. I felt it was almost a disrespect to make like a random video about it. It was just my feelings here. But yeah, it was weird seeing the cameo, knowing, you know, that he's no longer there. But you know, that's the thing. But I'm sure that Stan Lee, if he saw some kind of, I guess, rough draft version or whatever was available at that time, he would have been happy with the movie because the movie was super awesome. And yeah, that's all I can say, really. The movie's a lot of fun. It's super cool, super awesome. You'll love everything, all the reveals, all the stuff. Like, you know, White Kingpin wanted to activate the device. And, of course, a real cool after-credit cameo thing, like a cool little thing after credits roll and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's worth watching. I don't want to spoil too much. I'm afraid I spoiled too much already. But if you haven't seen it yet, once again, if you're any kind of Spider-Man fan, you owe it to yourself to watch this movie. It's just that much fun. So anyways, guys, there's Mark Rodriguez here. You've been watching the review Sanctum, where everything and anything may be reviewed. See you next time.